I am going to be sharing with you today the process that took me from complete emotional roller coaster to a sense of peace and stability when navigating my own negative emotions. And this has come after a cycle of years spent focusing on manifestation techniques as a means of escaping my feelings rather than working with them to get to a place of contentment and enjoyment of my life. And this cycle definitely involved having that realization multiple times before it finally sunk in that feeling my most feared feelings, including fear, was the only way I was going to be able to get to a place where I could receive the things that I wanted in my life. And also, the most important truth, which is that the things that I wanted in my life were peace and emotional stability and not the outside indicators of things that we associate with typical like achievements in the physical. So, as we know at this point, anything we want, anything we're trying to manifest, whether it's intentional or not, anything that we're wanting to draw into our life or create is because of the feeling that we think that it will give us. And manifestation is really just the carrot on the stick to get us to invest in our emotional state because our emotions precede the things that come into our lives rather than being the other way around, which is how it really seems when you're super deeply entrenched in the physical world and not involved in any kind of like spiritual awareness. So it's not a trick. It's not like we aren't going to get the physical manifestations that we really want to see, but the whole point is for us to create an internal sense of safety for ourselves, or else, even if we could snap our fingers and magically materialize all of the things that we want, we may temporarily feel better. And there would be a high from, like, holy shit, this thing just appeared in front of me. But we would still come back to that place of internal insecurity and imbalance because it's coming from something that's happened that we have not integrated into our systems, into our view of reality. So, my issue has been that I would feel a certain type of way that I did not like, and it would overwhelm me. And I would be like, what the fuck do I do with this? What do I do with this feeling? I don't know. And I would kind of like spin out, just like lose it. And sometimes distract myself and the feeling would go away and then I'd go about my life, but that's not the same thing as integrating it or understanding it, or even understanding it. I The other pattern I had was once I started acknowledging my feelings more, I would intellectualize them, so I can tell you all day long about the feeling, where it comes from, and why I have it, but that is still not the same thing as feeling it. And the feeling part is what is stuck in our body and keeps the cycle continuing. So, being able to understand is so great. Like, that's an important part of the process, but it's not the end all be all. And sometimes we don't even need to fully understand. That's something that is really important to me. So, I like being able to understand, but sometimes I just don't. Sometimes we don't know why things happen. And that is another thing for us to shift into, being okay with not knowing the why. Regardless, the important part of the process that I was skipping was the physical embodiment of the feeling and letting it be welcome in my experience rather than my entire goal being to get rid of feeling the way that I was as quickly as possible. I talk about gentle parenting a lot because this is relevant for children and we see it happen in the realm of child behavior so much, but it is just as relevant for adults. So even if you don't have personal experience with young children, you can still relate to this, that when we're feeling a certain way, and we go to suppress it or punish it away, it makes that feeling bigger and stronger, even if the tactic that we're using appears to work. So, a child is screaming and then someone smacks them. The kid might stop screaming, but it's not even a fix. I mean, you could call it that, but the kid has shut down. They don't feel safe, and that's going to have negative repercussions on so many things for the rest of their lives, but specifically on that parent child relationship. And so, in the same way with our adult selves, or even, imagine with a friend, if your friend is upset about something, you can try to talk them out of it or distract them. But if you instead take the time to sit with them and say, I understand, and that sounds so shitty, like, I'm sorry that you're going through that, that is a much more effective way to interact with that emotion. And even if it might take a little bit longer than yelling at your spouse, to sit down with them and affirm them and validate what they're going through, over time, with that consistency of response, is going to make the scope of the emotion much smaller, and the whoever's having the experience is a lot less likely to spiral out because they're getting this consistent validation and affirmation that their feelings matter and their experience is real. So then they don't need it to be as big of a display, because they're like, no, this is real, it's okay, I can have a more mild reaction, and it's taken seriously, essentially. So, if your background, either as a child or as an adult, or in many cases, in my own case, both, has been not receiving validation and affirmation for your emotional responses, it is very probable that you are also not giving yourself that love and compassion. And that is going to affect every other area of your life, especially when it comes to wanting to receive and welcome in really good, wonderful things into your life that you absolutely deserve, that everyone deserves. And no one is punishing you. The universe is not holding these things away from you and saying you don't deserve them yet. That's some shit that we do to ourselves. So, this process, whether or not you're specifically trying to manifest a successful business or a really loving soulmate connection relationship or lots of money, a like incredible trip overseas, whatever the fuck, fill in the blank, whether you're looking for a physical manifestation or you just want to feel fucking okay, this process is going to be a massive game changer for you. And it certainly has been for me. The only thing that you need to get started is a pen and paper. You could theoretically do this on your phone, you could do it on your computer, whatever is accessible to you. Or if you prefer to verbally record, all of that works. You know yourself best. I find that the process of pen on paper is really cathartic, and there's, different research that shows that it activates different parts of our brain to physically write something down. It's also really nice if you make this a ritual. So have some sort of warm drink or cold drink, something yummy to drink that you enjoy. You can light some candles, light some incense, whatever you can do to make a space feel safe and cozy for you, because this is really sacred work. And anything that is going to enhance your feeling of safety and connection is going to be really valuable. But again, in a pinch, you can do this anywhere. Before you get started, take a minute to place a hand either on your heart or on your belly. You can do one hand on each area and take some really slow and intentional deep breaths. This is going to connect you to your body and again help bring in a sense of safety and calm down some of that adrenaline if you're experiencing any of those kind of side effects from feeling not so safe. And you'll be able to think more clearly and connect to your deeper self. And again, you're reassuring your inner child, which we'll get to in a couple of steps. The first step is to observe what's going on in your mind. So, if you need some sort of structure, you can set a timer for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes and just write out everything that is spinning around in your brain. Sometimes, it might be easy to sit down and just like vomit it all out onto a page. And sometimes you might feel a little bit stuck. So, having a time limit can really help with that. And literally, whatever pops into your head, write it down. In my case, I usually am already stewing about something and I'll start to notice I've had this thought quite a few times in the last, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I need to sit down and check in with myself and figure out where this is coming from. So get everything out. If it repeats, that's okay. You can be as repetitive as you need to be. It doesn't have to make sense, but get it out of your head and onto the paper or your recording device, whatever you're using. Next, you're going to identify the primary emotion or multiple emotions that's behind what is going on with all of this spinning. So, is it fear? Is it anger? You can look up a list of emotions if you need help with that, just to kind of browse and pick out, oh, yeah, that's what this is. So, once you've identified what primary emotion or a couple of emotions is behind your mind racing, it's time to affirm and validate yourself for those emotions. So, you'll again place a hand over your heart and close your eyes if it feels comfortable. Take some deep breaths and tell yourself out loud if you can, but in your head is also okay if you're not in a space that's accessible for that. Of course, I feel this way. Of course, I feel this way. And it's okay. So, definitely, specifically name the feeling. Of course, I feel angry that my best friend forgot my birthday. I feel really unimportant and unseen. And I really wish that they had remembered. It's totally understandable for me to feel angry and disappointed that they forgot.